Good morning, Paul. It's Wednesday, the 12th of January. Here's the heads up brief for today. For the Southeast Asia production, we covered 17 issues. For North Asia, we covered 5. And for the Australasia and Pacific Islands, we covered 5. In South Asia, we covered 19 issues, plus the major events in Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Okay, excellent. Uday, thank you. I'd like to know the major issues. Go ahead.
Right, Paul. So the major issues are yesterday, Indonesia's Corruption Eradication Commission arrested the governor of Papua, Lucas Nmb, in Jayapura. At least one person was killed in the ensuing violence. Protesters broke into Sentani Airport, and there were clashes near the pre-mob station in Abipura. Security forces also fired warning shots. Inambe has been arrested due to corruption over an infrastructure development project and misusing state funds.
Yeah, thank you. I saw our guy's videos and his feeds on our internal WhatsApp group. Very interesting to see. We know he's highly supported by the Highland Papuans. The Highland Papuans are, of course, not educated in terms of the level of corruption. There's a political dimension here too. It suits the powers to be in Jakarta to move him on because of the colour of his skin. Unfortunately, same said powers in Jakarta teach corruption, but then implement anti-corruption measures on a grand scale of hypocrisy. Really important to keep me posted on that, because that violence could spread beyond the immediate locales. So you're going to have to call me on WhatsApp if it starts to spread beyond the immediate impact areas of Jakarta. It could become cross-tribal or cross-race, meaning Melanesians to Austronesians, as in what people describe as fuzzy-wuzzy hairs against the straight black hairs. There's all underlying issues such as transmigrations, jealousies against the lack of education, and so forth. It could also become anti-transmigration settlements, could potentially break out into violence. I'm not predicting this, I'm just saying keep an eye on it. It could go into the Freeport area where there's a lot of, over 100 ethnicities of Indonesia working within the confines of their massive project area and the communities around it. Thank you. Go on.
Thanks, Paul. We'll keep an eye out on that and update you. Speaking of the Highland Papuan tribes, Paul, in Oxabil, the West Papua National Liberation Army burned down another building overnight. Security forces have said that economic activity in the area has been paralyzed. Flights at the airstrip have been disrupted after the TPNBP opened fire on 2 planes earlier this week.
Okay, again, in line with my comments yesterday, what I think the Indonesian security forces are failing to pick up on, and everyone's underestimating, is the cross-border expertise being brought in to assist the TPNPB. And it's clear and obvious that Oxabil's location and the fact that they're stressing control and making Oxabil difficult or to demotivate forces from wanting to live there from the Indonesian side, we can ask, why is that? And I think the answer is pretty conclusive. All right, thank you.
Right, Paul. On the topic of the Indonesian police have sent a team to the Philippines to investigate a Papuan Indonesian arrested for possessing firearms. He was arrested on the 7th of January with assault rifles in southern Mindanao near General Santos City. Indonesian authorities want to determine whether there are links between the suspect and the TPNBP. The TPNBP has said that the individual is a criminal who is not connected to them.
Okay, very, very interesting. If you can run past myself and past our chap in Jayapura, and perhaps our chap in Jakarta too, the surname, if they've released his name, we can learn a lot about which tribe he's in and probably have connections to him. Thank you.
Yes, Paul, we'll do that. We do have his name. I'll drop it in a message later.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. I think it's really important because we'll know how undesirable or how potentially, in fact, he is linked to TPNPB. Once we see his surname and make a few phone calls, we'll be able to work out whether TPNPB is trying to wipe their hands or he's genuinely a nutter. But I would think it's almost certainly linked to the TPNPB. Okay, go ahead.
Right, Paul. In the Philippines, the Supreme Court declared that an agreement for a joint marine seismic undertaking between China, Vietnam, and the Philippines was unconstitutional and void. It said that foreign corporations are not allowed to conduct exploration activities in the country's territory.
Okay, that's interesting, mate. That's been going on a long time, up and down like a yo-yo. And what somebody thinks versus what the other party is doing is not always the same, especially when it pertains to China.
Yeah. Paul, the Myanmar military conducted airstrikes against the Chin National Front in Chin State along the India-Myanmar border. One bomb apparently fell onto the Indian side yesterday.
Okay, keep us posted on that. It'll be interesting to see India's response.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see India's response. Obviously, Myanmar government can be, for a military government that seized power of a country and has had power, they tend to be very, very sloppy. And it's interesting to see if they can actually start to become more professional.
Right, Paul. Keep an eye out on that.
There's a tinge of sarcasm in that after, how many decades, excluding Aung San Suu Kyi's short-lived purporting to be in power when it's far from the case. It'd be interesting to see at what point Myanmar decides firing bombs from aeroplanes and hitting neighbouring countries is more destructive on who you are as a government trying to hang on to power. And what does it achieve on the ground? You also further create enemies on the ground because you're using superior force in an inhumane way. There's a reason there's over 150 ethnicity groups that have formed an armed organisation in Myanmar against the government. So their days are numbered. It may be decades away, but pissing off India is not going to help. Thanks, mate. Go on.
Right, Paul. Paul, in Thailand, 6 drug smugglers were killed during a clash with the military in Phang district, Chiang Mai, on January 9th. I wanted to bring it up with you, even though it happened a couple of days ago, because clashes in which smugglers are killed is not that common.
Hey, look, mate, this is really important. Same as the last time. I really need just if you could have the ladies or somebody plop that on the map and flick it to me with
Sure,
a known point, directional and distance indicator. I really need to see exactly where that is. I don't know that district.
Sure, Paul, we'll do that. Paul, lastly, in Thailand, the Palang Pracharan Party said that its leader, Prawit Wongsuwon, will be the sole prime ministerial candidate.
Okay, that's really interesting. We are really seeing a jockeying. At the end of the day, whoever forms a coalition is going to have to play politics Thai style. Ultimately, we're going to see Prawit or Prayut heading up the coalition, and ultimately that person's going to be the most powerful in the country. But without the other, they seriously depower themselves. So if their conflict is real, which I very much doubt, despite what we're hearing about it, I think that those two are going to have to coexist, even if their conflict's real, because they need to force amplify their own power. All right, good, thank you.
Right, Paul. Moving over to South Asia, there's an opposition party rally in Dhaka, Bangladesh today. And in Nepal,
okay,
Paul,
great.
Sorry.
Just hang on a sec, mate. Just going back to Thailand for a sec. I'm on the way to Suvarnabhumi Airport and then I'm swinging up to see a chap, and I will ask the question about the Prayud. Is the conflict real or more likely feigned for strategic purposes? Okay. And even if there has been conflict, is it likely to actually disrupt them working together for whoever has power to maximize their actual power? Because alienating the other and that power base potentially unseats them from being the top two most powerful people beyond the obvious power, which is, of course, the royal family in Thailand. Okay, sorry to cut you off. Just redo Bangladesh. I wasn't focused on it.
No worries, Paul. So there's an opposition party rally in Dhaka, Bangladesh today by the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. It has been holding these sort of rallies over the past few months, and it will continue to do so ahead of the elections.
Okay, I'd be keen to know what level of disruption there was to traffic and whatnot after you get a good feel of that at the end of the day.
Yes, Paul, we'll let you know on that. In Nepal, Paul, Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal won the confidence vote in Parliament yesterday. He got support from 268 out of 270 lawmakers.
That's a fantastic progression for the future in Nepal, especially given his background. He's got the ability to settle troublemakers.
Right. Paul, lastly, in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa regions, there's two events I wanted to bring up. The Nigerian Election Committee said that next month's elections may be postponed due to insecurity. Now, this is a bit ironic considering that one of the main things that various campaigns have focused on is insecurity, and politicians have been saying how they will tackle insecurity after the elections.
Okay, thank you.
Berlin and Eastern Germany are facing gasoline shortages and higher fuel prices due to the Russia-Ukrainian war. There was a little bit of easing in the last few weeks, but since the start of 2023, it's escalated again.
Okay, thank you very much for that. It's interesting to see America using the name NATO's expansionism for peace. Problems that Europe's experiencing, date of ignoring 14 years of bullying Putin and thinking there wouldn't be a comeback despite him telling exactly what he's going to do. When Germany starts to suffer the machinations of increased energy prices and effects on Germany as a manufacturing and an economic superpower in Europe, I'd expect we're going to see Europe start to see through some of the American-driven effects on Europe, which are certainly in America's best interest, but not necessarily in those of everyday Europeans. The European elitists and the World Economic Forum and various other unelected bodies that have become de facto political extensions of American desires is very different from the people in the Europe, in the streets of particularly France and Germany, but also other countries that will start to push back when they're losing jobs and energy prices are increased. At some point, some of the smarter NGOs are going to connect the dots, and that spells trouble. Just coming back to Thailand, I think it'd be good for us to put a audio brief together today, if you've got time after this call, and just go into a little bit more information about who are the political parties, who are the key players, and just let people see the complexity of how it's going to play out. Okay.
Yeah, sure, Paul. We can do that. Yes.
All right. If you can send me another link, because I'm obviously just finding it a little bit troublesome in the traffic at the moment, mate. Okay.
Sure, Paul. We'll do it. Thanks.